My name is Andy, and nature's most dangerous animals aren't the ones with the sharpest teeth or those that rely on speed, strength, or venom. They're the ones that figured out how to make other animals do their work for them. And 3 of them are so good at it. They've turned manipulation into a biological superpower. The common cuckoo. It does not build a nest, does not incubate eggs, does not feed its young, does not participate in parenthood in any form. What it does instead is find a bird that does all of those things and permanently hand the entire job to them, without asking, without them knowing, and with a consistency that should make every other bird in the animal kingdom deeply uncomfortable. This is manipulation at the species level, and it starts before the egg even hatches. A female cuckoo spends several days watching a target nest. She tracks the host parent's routine, identifies the window when both leave simultaneously, and waits. When the moment comes, she lands, removes one existing egg, drops her own in its place, and exits. Field researchers have recorded the entire operation completed in as little as 4 seconds. The host parents return, see a full nest, get to work. There are roughly 50 to 60 host species that cuckoos regularly target. Reed warblers, dunnocks, meadow pipits. Each female cuckoo typically specializes in one host species her entire life, spending years producing eggs that specifically match that species in color, pattern, and size. She is not improvising. She has a target. She has a system. She has been running it longer than most species have existed. The cuckoo egg hatches 1 to 2 days before the host eggs. And within hours of hatching, still blind, still barely mobile, the cuckoo chick begins locating every other egg in the nest by feel, gets underneath each one, spreads its wings for grip, and pushes it over the edge, one by one, until the nest is empty except for itself. Now this is where the manipulation becomes something more than just clever biology. The host parents were present for this. They watched it happen. They saw their eggs go over the edge, one by one, pushed out by something that arrived in their nest 2 days ago. And then they looked at what was left and started bringing it food. Not because they're incapable of recognizing something is wrong, but because parental instinct in birds locks onto whatever remains in the nest during a specific early window after hatching. Once that behavioral lock engages, visual evidence of a problem doesn't override it. The cuckoo chick could grow to the size of a Labrador retriever. The feeding continues, which, within a few weeks, it basically does. The host parents aren't confused. They're committed, and the cuckoo built its entire manipulation strategy around that commitment. That's the physical operation. But sustaining the manipulation requires one more tool. The cuckoo chick's begging call doesn't sound like one chick. It acoustically mimics the sound of an entire brood calling simultaneously. A 2011 study in the journal Science found that reed warblers feeding a single cuckoo chick foraged at rates consistent with raising a full brood of 4 to 5 chicks, working harder than they would ever work for their own offspring. One chick, simulating a family it already eliminated, receiving full family service. The manipulation doesn't just start and stop at egg placement. It runs continuously, through the begging call, through the size, through the timing, for the entire duration of the relationship. The Deep-Sea Anglerfish, 2 kilometers below the ocean surface, no sunlight, no visibility, water pressure running at roughly 200 atmospheres, temperature just above freezing. In this environment, the only information any animal has is whatever produces a signal in total darkness. One point of light in an otherwise black void means one thing to everything living down there: food. The anglerfish built a fake one, attached it to its own forehead, and what follows is one of the cleanest examples of sensory manipulation in the entire animal kingdom. The lure, called an esca, is a modified dorsal spine extending from the top of the skull, ending in a bulb containing bioluminescent bacteria. The anglerfish didn't evolve the ability to produce light itself. It cultivates bacteria inside a specialized organ, housing them, maintaining them, and uses the glow as a built-in fishing rod, running a living lantern on its own head that it waves. A 2020 study in PLOS-1 using deep-sea camera footage found that the light doesn't just pulse randomly. It produces specific patterns that mimic the bioluminescent signals of small organisms the prey are already hunting. The anglerfish isn't just glowing. It's replicating a signal its prey is already wired to follow. That distinction is important. This isn't passive. The anglerfish is actively broadcasting a tailored signal into an environment where its target has no way to verify what it's approaching. The prey moves toward what every instinct identifies as food, which is a mouth that opens wide enough to swallow prey up to twice its own body size. The prey arrives voluntarily, navigates itself into range. The jaw closes. The manipulation works because the target has no frame of reference for a fake signal at that depth. There is no learned defense against it. There is no way to cross-check. There is only the light and the instinct to follow it. Think about the last time you clicked on something because it looked exactly like what you were searching for, and it wasn't. The anglerfish invented that strategy 130 million years before the internet did, and its conversion rate is significantly higher. Now the lure is only half of the anglerfish story. The male deep-sea anglerfish is tiny, in some species just 6 to 10 millimeters long compared to the female's 20 to 40 centimeters. No lure, limited sensory capability, one biological objective: locate a female in complete darkness across open water at extreme depth. When a male finds a female, he bites into her body. His mouth fuses with her skin. His circulatory system merges with hers. His eyes degrade. His internal organs atrophy. His brain reduces to near nothing. What remains is a permanent biological attachment kept alive by her bloodstream, used for reproduction on demand. A single female can carry up to 8 fused males simultaneously. This is called sexual parasitism, and it is, in a very specific sense, the anglerfish running a second manipulation system, this one aimed not at prey, but at its own species. The parasitic wasp, 2 species, because each one shows a different level of what manipulation looks like when it has had millions of years to develop. There are over 100,000 documented species of parasitic wasp, one of the most species-rich groups on Earth. Entomologists estimate hundreds of thousands more are yet to be identified. Statistically, almost every insect species has at least one parasitic wasp that specifically targets it. First, the jewel wasp. The jewel wasp targets cockroaches. 2 stings, 2 locations, 2 separate objectives. The first sting goes into the thorax, temporarily paralyzing the front legs just long enough to reposition the cockroach's head for the second injection. The second sting goes directly into the specific neural cluster in the cockroach's brain, controlling escape motivation. 2007 study in PLOS-1 by researchers at Ben Gurion University confirmed the mechanism is highly localized. The cockroach retains complete motor function after both stings. It can walk if physically moved. It simply has no motivation to initiate movement on its own. The wasp then bites off part of the cockroach's antenna to regulate chemical absorption and uses the remaining stump as a leash. Walks the cockroach to a pre-dug burrow. The cockroach follows, calmly, because it has been chemically relieved of the option to feel otherwise. 1 egg on the abdomen, burrow sealed with pebbles. Wasp leaves. The cockroach sits in the dark, alive, conscious, fully functional, going nowhere. The larva hatches, feeds on non-vital tissue first, keeps the cockroach alive as long as possible. The full cycle runs approximately 6 weeks. It has a brain the size of a grain of sand. It does this entirely from instinct. Second, the Glyptopanthes wasp. This species lays between 60 and 80 eggs inside a living caterpillar. The eggs hatch. Larvae spend several weeks developing inside, feeding on internal fluids while carefully avoiding vital organs. The caterpillar stays alive throughout. That is not an accident. A living host is a better resource than a dead one. The larvae are actively maintaining what they're consuming, keeping the manipulation functional for as long as possible. When ready to pupate, all larvae exit simultaneously, chewing through the caterpillar's skin as a group, and form cocoons on the outside of its body. The caterpillar survives this. It is alive after 60 to 80 larvae have chewed their way out of it. The caterpillar stops feeding, stops moving normally, positions itself directly over the cocoon cluster, and begins violently thrashing, swinging its entire body at anything that approaches the cocoons. It is guarding them. This is the manipulation completing its final phase. The wasp didn't just use the caterpillar as a food source. It reprogrammed the caterpillar's behavior after it was done using it. 3 animals, 3 completely different environments, 3 different forms of manipulation. None of them are the strongest thing in their environment. They don't need to be, because the most effective manipulation in nature doesn't overpower its target. It just finds the gap between what something believes is happening and what actually is. And if you think that's a strategy unique to the animal kingdom, that's a conversation for another video. Subscribe to stay notified.